welcome to another edition of Living in Shelby Township. I'm Kelly Kasuda here with Hillary Davis, a member of the Shelby Township Historical Committee, and we're at Andrews Schoolhouse. What are we going to be talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk about when this building was built, where it was built, how it got here, of all things, and some of the collections we have inside.
And guess what? We're here on the Shelby Township Municipal Grounds, so anyone can come visit, right?
Correct.
All right, so let's head inside and have a little chat. All right, Hillary, so first tell us, how did the schoolhouse become what it is today?
Well, it was built sometime between 1864 and 1871. We do know that. It was originally located at the northeast corner of 25 Mile Road and Mound on a small piece of land that was given by Hiram Andrews. It was a school up until like the 1950s, when most of the one-room schoolhouses were turned into private residences or other uses, and the schools became part of a consolidated school system today, the Utica Consolidated Schools, and then they started building the bigger schools that are still around today.
With multiple rooms.
Exactly. So this building was actually a two-family apartment from the 1950s to the 1970s. There were two apartments in this little building. And in 1975, the school was purchased, or the land was purchased by I think it was Amoco Oil Company, and they wanted to get rid of the building. So they offered it for sale, and the Bicentennial Committee, the Shelby Township Bicentennial Committee in 1975 decided they wanted to buy it and move it here on the township grounds. They bought it for $1, and then they contracted to have it moved. Well, when they bought it, it was kind of in rough shape anyways. It had termites and beetles and was in rough shape. And then when they moved it over here, it got kind of mangled in the process of being moved. So it pretty much had to be rebuilt. They hired a contractor, a building contractor, to rebuild it pretty much from the ground up. So this is what we have today, and this is what we're seeing.
But everything is historically accurate.
Accurate, correct.
And that's important.
Yes, this is what it would have looked like back in its original location.
I love that. But I see that there's a ton of historical artifacts here. Right. And I mean, really, it's kind of fascinating. So what are some of the artifacts that someone can expect when they walk in? That's not just school related.
Correct. This is our museum, the Shelby Township Historical Committee Museum, and we've had donations over the years. So it's basically a collection of artifacts that have been donated by local people. We have a collection of books, like a library. We have an archive of photographs and a collection of documents. And some of the things that were donated were this bell that we have over here that was from the original Disco Academy at 24 in Van Dyke. So we have that bell. We have a police officer who's actually a fireman right now. We change his uniform every so often.
Who scared me when I walked in.
Yes, he's very frightening. Yes, he is. And we have a stove, a coal-burning stove that would have been similar to the one that was here in the 1800s, to name just a few of the things we have here.
Now, I'm just curious, if someone comes to the committee and says, I think I have something historical, yes, how do you even go about checking that? I mean, that would be pretty tough.
It is, and most of the time we can do research on the item. For instance, somebody gave us milk bottles that were from a dairy farm that was at 25 in Shelby. It was the Hardy Dairy Farm. Well, of course we knew, we'd had done research on that, so we were more than happy to accept these milk bottles as part of our collection. So we're happy to get the donations if we have room for them.
Yeah. Now, do you ever find something here? Like, was there a piece that you got and you kind of geeked out over? Like, I geek out over vinyl records.
I understand.
So
yes.
Is there something that someone brought to you and you thought, oh, this is just the best thing ever?
Well, I like the milk bottles, because that was kind of, to me it was interesting because of the fact that there were dairy farms here in Shelby Township back in the day, and there were quite a few of them actually. So we actually now have something from a farm that's long gone, and that kind of excited me. But my favorite object is the bell from the Disco Academy.
So, and actually what some people don't know, and I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but where the library and our cable,
Sure.
that building right now that used to be Disco Elementary School, right?
That what used to be Disco Elementary School, but the original Disco Elementary School was at 24 and Van Dyke, where the vast restaurant is right now.
Yeah.
That's where it was originally.
And I didn't even know that. Someone once said to me, oh yeah, you're in the old disco building. And I go, no, I work in Shelby Township. Had no idea.
Had no idea, yes.
One of the really cool things here is this picture. And there's lots of pictures, but I love this because it really resembles what school was like here back in the day. So where did you get this?
Well, this is one of the photographs that we have in our archive. This is actually the Disco Elementary School. This was at 24 and Van Dyke. And this was 1926, 1927 class. But from here, with this picture, you get an idea of what a one-room schoolhouse was like. And you get students from like 5 years old to into their teens, depending on how.
Yeah, these ones are so little.
They're so little. And then you get much older students, and the teachers weren't much older than the students they taught, because usually they were just out of high school and then they would be hired to teach these. So which one do you think is the teacher?
You know, I actually have no idea because these two look the same age.
Right.
So I'm thinking it's this one, but
I don't know either, but I think it is her. She seems to be a little older than everybody else. And perhaps
not by much.
Not by much. She wouldn't have been much older than the oldest students in this class. But she was responsible for teaching every child from age 5 to 13, 14, whatever they needed.
And I'm sure if you came here with your kids and you took a look at this picture, ask your child, who do you think you are, or who do you think your friends are, you could definitely tell. Like, I'm picking out some of these kids, I go, oh, that's the class clown.
Oh, yes.
He's probably a little silly too.
Right, right.
It really stands the test of time.
One of the fun things is when kids come to this museum, they look at this picture, the first thing they say is, they all have the same hairstyle.
Oh. Yeah, I see a lot of bowl cuts,
Yeah, exactly,
which I had one
which is
too.
1920s. It's typical. And I say, well, that's because it was easy.
Yeah.
It was an easy cut.
You hear that, Mom? The bowl cut was from the 1920s. It was not meant to be on me in the early 90s. Thank you very much. I hope she watches this.
Yes, but it's so wonderful because you do see the personalities of the students.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You can imagine how interesting it was going to school in those days. But the kids were from farm families. They went to school during the winter months when they weren't really needed on the farm that much. And there was actually tuition. You actually paid tuition to go to these schools. Really? And it was wood, it was firewood. Every family had to give firewood to keep the stove going during the winter. So that was the tuition.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
It does, doesn't it?
Now, do you think that they walked uphill both ways barefoot?
They would say yes.
I love that. Now, if it were me, I would show up every day, 9 o'clock at night after work, trying to come in here and read everything and look at all the pictures. I could spend hours in here. But there are probably some hours of operations that people would have to follow by, right?
Yes, we are open twice a year. We're open during the art fair, and we are open during the Christmas Aglow in December. Every other time it's by appointment. So all you need to do is call the clerk's office or go to our website and email us to make an appointment, and we'll open the doors and you can have fun.
And can I spend hours here?
Yes.
I mean, really, there's so much to do.
And you can ring the bell.
Should we ring the bell?
There's a bell on top of the building that you can pull the cord and ring the bell.
You can ring the bell.
You can.
I think there's a song, but we can't obviously play it for licensing purposes.
Understood.
Thank you so much for
it was
having
so much
us.
fun.
And make
Thank
sure you all come visit. It's a great place to be and you'll learn a lot.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. but I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it. I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
They were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Now, class, Easter is right around the corner, and you've probably decorated Easter eggs, but have you ever heard of Pysanky eggs? These elaborate designed eggs are a staple in Eastern European countries like the Ukraine. Let's head over to the Shelby Township Library with Tyler Smith, who has the story.
Pysanky is one that the Ukrainian people and some other places in like Poland have been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's a Lenten tradition. So, you know, in the time leading up to Easter, in the same way that we dye eggs with, you know, bright colors or hide them or something like that, this is just a really fancy way of decorating those eggs at Easter time. Really fortunate. This is Kathy's third year with us. She's been every year for the last 3 years where she's come in and taught a class. And I'll admit that after last year's class, I did go home and try it myself with my own Easter eggs, and it was a lot of fun to do. I was able to buy a little kit and to melt my own wax on my egg and then dye it, and it was a lot of fun. I think it's a great way to set new traditions. You know, we're always looking for, like if you look at the array at the store and they have the really bright colors of eggs and they have their pastels and they have glitter and they have stickers and they have all kinds of ways to decorate your Easter eggs first, you know, in different ways if that's one of your traditions. Well, this would be another thing to kind of throw into that mix to do a different, you know, yet another way of decorating eggs if that's something your family does or wants to try.
I try to keep up with what these young people is doing and knowing.
I was at work and I just got a text from a number that I didn't know.
I sent him a text. He texts me back and say, "Who dis?" And I just thought that was the funniest thing.
The next few weeks, she just made fun of me, like would answer the door and say, "Who dis?"
Who dis?
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org.
America, let's do lunch.
Are you interested in taking care of a reptile or amphibian at home, but not sure how to take care of them? Why not adopt one at our Burgess Shadbush Nature Center? One-year adoptions are $25 for a small animal and $50 for a large animal. You'll get an adoption certificate, and the adoption fee will help cover vet care and expenses for your animal. You're encouraged to come in regularly to take care of your animal. For more information, you can call the Burgess Shadbush Nature Center at 586-323-2478 or contact them at naturecenter@shelbytwp.org. You can visit the Nature Center yourself at 4101 Riverbends Drive off of the Ryan Road entrance of Riverbends Park.
Watch out! The Nature Center has been invaded by a baby alligator. But don't worry, it's under the watchful eye of naturalist Randy Baker. Now you check out this story about Exotic Pet Day while I sit in the corner.
The Burgess Shadbush Nature Center is home to a lot of creepy crawlers, but recently, some more critters had a visit in the Nature Center's Exotic Animal Day.
Well, today we're talking about both large animals and small animals, some that make good pets and some that don't. So people make wise decisions when they go out to choose something they want to have in their home for a while. Sometimes people go to the pet store and they'll see an amazing animal. Yeah, I want to take that home, but they forget it's not going to stay small. You know, a baby python might be 12 inches long and it might be 12 feet when he's full grown. Big difference in how you take care of a 12-footer versus a 12-inch animal. So we're going to teach how to maintain some of the animals, let them have an experience touching some of the animals. Basically an education process while having a good time. I love sharing knowledge. I've been going to schools and nature centers providing programs now for more than 25 years, and it's always amazing to help share the information with people.
Now, how exotic do these animals get?
There's everything from alligators to tarantulas to hedgehogs, a variety of snakes and turtles, frogs, salamanders, a pretty good diversity. And again, we'll try to separate which ones make the best pets and which don't. And sometimes that's based on the age of the child or the children in a home. Some are a little more tolerant of handling than others.
What type of interesting questions come up at these type of events?
Sometimes not the small kids that give them. Sometimes it's the adults, and they'll ask, is it real? It's moving its legs, it's moving, it's crawling, and then we still get the question, is it real? We're so used to everything being automated with batteries and remote controls that honestly, there's sometimes people aren't aware that the turtle is alive. So that still amazes me when you have to answer that question. And sometimes the child that answers that question is 65 years old. So we still get those.
But if you want to see some of these animals in action, all you have to do is go outside.
Well, the biggest thing is to get out and enjoy wildlife, whether it's here at the nature center or out in your backyard. Observing wildlife is free, and it's constantly changing entertainment. But if you're going to maintain an animal as a pet, you need to understand the proper care. Whether it's a cat, a dog, or a more exotic animal like a snake or a turtle or a frog, you need to know the proper techniques for taking care of it.
For Living, I'm Andrew Shelsky.
Spring has finally sprung, and that means a lot of the critters are going to be waking up from hibernation and stretching their legs. One of those early risers is the northern spring peeper frog. And yes, that's its real name. Megan over at the Nature Center has more information about these little guys that are literally the size of your fingernail.
So for today's creature feature, what we're going to be talking about is actually one of Michigan's native frogs. It's called the northern spring peeper. Now, this guy, who's in my hand because he's a little bit jumpy today, he is one of the first frogs to start calling in the spring. One of the best ways to tell that spring is coming here in Michigan, even though the weather outside is not always very spring-like right now, you can tell that it's getting warmer and that we're getting closer to actually true spring because our frogs are going to start calling here pretty soon, or they've already started calling. So our earliest frog species that calls is actually the chorus frog, and these guys are the second round of callers, and they started calling about a week ago. And that's in their name. They're the northern spring peeper because it's pretty reliable that around vernal spring, so on the equinox, it's a pretty reliable bet that these guys are going to start calling and start their breeding season. So frogs always breed, Michigan frogs all breed in the spring. So in order to attract their mates to them, male frogs will call to their females. And these guys in particular, they make a peeping sound, which is where they get their name. And in a chorus, which means multiple of them singing at once, usually sounds more like sleigh bells. So the next time you drive by a wetland or, you know, a wet spot even in your neighborhood, you may actually hear these guys calling. So definitely keep an ear out for them.
Well, that's all for this edition of Living in Shelby Township. I'm going to ring the Andrews School bell to send you off.